Okay, this video is on the empirical rule, which we have covered in previous chapters, and we're going to take a look at it again. Let's look at our question. Costco installs automobile tires on a first come, first served basis. The total time a customer needs to wait for the installation to be completed follows the normal distribution. So that tells us that if it's a normal distribution that we can use the empirical rule if we need to. The mean time is 106.3 minutes and the standard deviation is 18.5 minutes. We want to know the interval around the mean that contains 68% of the wait time for the customers. So let's look at the empirical rule and figure out how to write this interval. So if you look at our slide for a normal distribution, 68% of our values are one standard deviation from the mean. So 68% is one standard deviation. So we're going to use that to figure out our interval. So the way that you do that is you're going to take the mean and you're going to add and you're going to subtract 1 times the standard deviation. When we subtract the standard deviation, that's going to give us the interval on the left side of the mean, and then when we add the standard deviation, that is going to give us the right side. So let's draw it to get a visual here. So our mean is 106.3, and we're going to find out the interval for our 68% of our customers. So we know our mean is 106.3, and we're going to add and subtract 1 times the standard deviation, and the standard deviation is 18.5. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so we can really see. That's not exactly even, but we'll let it work. So 106.3. All right, so when we do that, we're going to do 1 times 18.5. So we're going to do 106.3 plus 18.5 and 106.3 minus 1805. So when we do 106.3 plus 18.5, we're going to get, we'll say, and I'm going to make this a little bit skinnier so we can fit everything on it. So 124.8. And then we're going to subtract 106.3 minus 18.5, and we're going to get 87.5. So what that means is 68% of our customers' wait times are going to be between 87.5 and 124.8. And the way you can write this interval is just to make it a little bit simple to see. This is our 68% is one standard deviation from the mean. So that would be your answer. But we're going to take this a step further, and we're going to calculate the interval for the 95 percentile. So we just did the interval for the 68 percentile, and we'll change colors here, and we'll do the 95 percentile. So for the 95 percentile, or 95%, I guess I shouldn't say percentile, 95% of our data is going to be 2 standard deviations from the mean. So then we're going to do the mean, which is 106.3 plus and minus 2 standard deviations. And plug in your standard deviation. So we're going to do 106.3 plus and minus 37. So when you do 106.3 plus 37, I'm going to leave this the same. You're going to get, and I'm going to point to what this value represents because I didn't make my curve big enough. I'm going to pause it and draw the curve bigger. Okay, so I have redrawn my curve here. So when I add and subtract 37, my interval is going to be 106.3 minus 37 would give me 69.3, and then 106.3 plus 37 would give me 143.3. So what that means is let me find a color here. 95% of my customer wait times are going to fall in the interval of 69.3 and 143.3. 2 standard deviations away from the mean. And then let's look at the last percentage, the 99.7% of our data values, when they are normally distributed, will fall within 3 standard deviations of the mean. So we're using our formula, mean plus 3 times the standard deviation. So the magical numbers here are 68% is 1 standard deviation, and then 95% is 2 standard deviations, and 99.7% is 3 standard deviations. So that is the empirical rule. That's what you need to know, that you can use that. So 106.3 plus 3 times 18.5. So that would be 106.3 plus 55.5, I believe, there, plus and minus. I'm checking it just to make sure. Okay, so when you do that, when you calculate that, your interval is going to be 50, I believe 50.8. And 161.8. And that means that 99.7% of customer wait times will be between 50.8 and 161.8 minutes. And this is for first come, first served basis. And they're changing your tires. So this is not by appointment here, which is important to understand if this is your business. So 50.8 and 161.8. Sorry, 50.8 and 161.8. And I'm going to double check that real quick, those two values, but let me know if you have any questions.